tell us about your project. Roll call.
All right, Mr. Boyd,
Here.
Mr. Owens,
Here.
Mrs. Hartshorn.
Here.
Mrs. White.
Here.
And Mr. Giesler.
Here.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes to approve. The first is the December 1, 2021 regular meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from that meeting, and are there questions or changes?
There's just like a small typo here. I don't know that it matters.
Just if you have to say what it is. We'll do it.
There's a 4 in the middle of,
Requesting.
that word. It just says it needs to, there's a 4 in the middle of the word requesting
Okay.
on this back of the first.
Oh, I see it. They're
Yeah.
under D, the first item,
Yeah.
certificate of appropriateness. Okay. Are there any other changes? With that change, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Boyd,
Oh, aye.
Mr. Owens,
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn.
Aye.
Mrs. White,
Aye.
and Mr. Giesler.
Aye. Next are the minutes from the December 16, 2021 special call meeting. Are there any comments regarding those minutes?
Oh, I had to just.
Not, is there a motion to approve as submitted?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boyd,
I wasn't present at the
Okay.
meeting.
abstain. Mr. Owens,
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn.
Aye.
Mrs. White, also not present, and Mr. Giesler.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, certificate of appropriateness for the Mercantile building, Regent Street LLC.
I will be the owner's representative.
Okay, welcome.
My name's Nathan Berg. My address recently moved is 24383 Walden Road. So I'm one of the owners of Walden Construction. We're the general contractor for this project. Working with Bundy A&E, who is the architect.
All right, if you just want to take us through the proposed changes for the building, and we have your packet and see that it's going to be, I guess, maybe some short-term units and long-term, anyway.
Yes, so what we're looking to do on the exterior of the building is restore the existing masonry. We would also like to install awnings on the front over the windows. Currently, it has awnings over the windows, but we would be sort of putting new canvas awnings that have a stripe. Similar to, I'm not sure if this image is in the packet.
We have.
So that's the
We
new
don't-
rendering. This is a historic
we don't
photo
have
taken in the 1930s, which shows striped awnings.
Can you bring it up and let us see a little closer?
We don't have that.
So that's when it was Hotel Abingdon.
So the awnings would be canvas?
The
Canvas.
marquee.
In that same color, green and white, that you
Green
have
and
on.
white.
That's so cool. I love that old car.
So, in order to make the building fully accessible, we are proposing installing a elevator and stairwell shaft. The stairwell is required by building code. That would be an addition built on the rear of the building. And that would be built of masonry. You have the brick, the proposed brick selection in the packet. what we would like to do is, you know, it's difficult to match the existing brick, especially considering there are multiple types of brick used in the building. The front of the building was actually painted red at one point. So the general principle that would be guiding us in brick selection is that we would match whatever new brick we're adding would be matched to whichever side it's going on. So the back would be matched to whatever the existing brick is on the back. We would have to, obviously this is old brick that has, you know, the patina of age on it, and so we would have to make an approximate match. This would be something that we would do by laying up a sample board, and would, to a certain extent, be done through trial and error to make sure that we're finding the best brick sample that is currently available that matches, or at least approximately matches the historic brick.
So is that something you'll be bringing back to us later once the concept is approved?
Yes.
Can you walk us through these windows too, all the extra windows
Sure.
you're adding?
So the exterior windows would be restored, the ones that are currently existing. We would be making new window openings, especially along the side, the left side that faces the bank. We would be adding windows, and those windows would be simulated divided light wood windows with the grill pattern to match the existing windows.
What do you mean by simulated wood?
Simulated divided light.
Oh, divided
is-
light.
Right. So a true divided light window is where you have individual panes of glass. A simulated divided light window is where you have one pane of glass, but you have the grill, or the mullions and muntins are actually appear to be a true divided light. Now, I believe under the current guidelines, the simulated divided light is
They're,
yeah.
yeah.
Which of the windows, I mean, basically are having to be added?
So, there are, if you look at the left-hand side,
Yes.
the four, yeah, Max,
Are
yeah,
these bottom ones, these four?
yep, those four.
This one, this one, this one, this one?
Oh, the four in the corner there?
Where
Right
it's
now,
covered
those
with
are-
like concrete or something?
They're bricked up.
Bricked
Yeah.
up.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's putting back windows that were there at one time?
Yeah.
correct, yeah. And then, along the back of the building is where we'll be doing the rest of the alterations. So you can see there will be that addition to the building that would cover they would cover the existing back doors and cover up some of the existing windows.
Is that the north elevation?
Yes, the back would be the north elevation. Correct.
Okay.
Very good.
So, yep, there we go. The two windows to the left of the elevator shaft and stairwell are existing and will be restored. Those two, yep. Those again would be similar to the ones that we're adding to the side. They're wood simulated divided light windows. And we wanted to balance, so you can sort of see there's kind of a difference in it almost looks like we're filling in some old windows. And the reason we would do that would just be to give that addition some balance, so that we're kind of, we're in order to make it look like it belongs on the historic building, we're basically making it so that it looked like those windows were at some point filled in with brick. Because that same pattern is continued throughout the rest of the building, where old windows were filled in. We're basically kind of being sneaky and giving it kind of the look of age by filling in those openings. It would be kind of a.
Is that where the elevator shaft?
The
is?
three
That's where the elevator
on the
shaft-
right,
right.
that's what you're talking
Mhm.
about.
And obviously, those would be probably the same. We kind of used a different color in the rendering. but they would essentially be the same style of brick. They would just be inset slightly, and you would see a little bit of a brick detail. It wouldn't be something that you would necessarily notice immediately, but it just gives the overall addition just a little bit more balance, and also.
It's a very cool use of space.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what about back to the brick, so you're gonna have the brick to match, do you know what the mortar's going to be yet?
It would be a soft lime-based mortar that would be dyed to be a buff color that would match the existing mortar. It's something that you almost have to take the samples,
Right.
look at the existing, and kind of do it by trial and error.
So the windows in the back, the
Mhm.
upper parts, are they showing no color on, they're showing brick color here? Or is that just a drawing thing, or are they gonna be like the white or the cream that you've used on the side?
It's in shadow, it's
Okay.
rendering, so they'll be the same as the.
All the
other.
way around?
Yes.
And then, there's something about the front door.
Right. So, going around, you want to click around to the front elevation.
I mean, if there's another order you were taking that in, you don't have to jump around. Was there something else you were gonna talk about?
No.
Okay.
The front door will be a custom-built wood door to match the original door.
Is the original door still there?
No.
And the original was pushed back, there's
Right.
kind of an awkward step and a steep ramp, it's about, here's an bench and then the door.
But I mean, is the door that's back there, is that
No.
that's a new door?
That's a new door. At some point, so what you're looking at right now was the way it was originally built.
Mhm.
At some point, they removed that. They created a small open vestibule that right now, it's actually at an angle, so it's very awkward. It's not comfortable, and it's not safe, honestly. What we would be doing is taking it back to the original design that we've seen from the old photos, and actually creating an interior vestibule, which makes a lot more sense.
And the new door that you're gonna create, is that gonna be a custom-made wood door?
It will be custom made, yes.
So I think this picture right here describes what you're
Yes.
talking about, that
Mhm.
it's inset back now,
Right.
the entrance door.
Yeah, I've
The
experienced
new
that.
door will be more pushed towards the street, correct?
The new door will be, right, it will
Be
reflect
flush.
the front.
So is the design of the door, is it, is it the same as, I mean, are you basing that on historic photos or something?
Yes, Matt designed that to match what we,
What we did was match the doors that were above that
Oh.
are there, which we were just gonna restore, and then the transom is existing, that's actually concealed under that awning that's there. You have to get up under there, if you look up, it's still there, so
Okay.
we'd be coming back to that edge, and, I mean, that would be painted and restored if needed.
So the doors on the second floor and the third floor, those are the original doors, and you're matching those on the first floor?
Yes. And I'm not sure if they're original, but they're nice old doors. They've been, one of them, the second floor's been painted, the glass has been painted, so we would make sure.
it's hard to tell what was original. We know that they're old.
Right.
And that's what you're using as your
Yes.
model plus the photograph? Okay.
Something else that we'll be building are these balconies. Those were, there were balconies out there at one point. We'll be building these balconies. There'll be a cast iron rail with wood painted trim along the fascia of the balcony.
And they'll be similar to the one that's there already. Balcony.
Taking those off?
There's
The
one on
one
the,
that's there already is
These are new.
smaller, so these would be,
Setting.
and these would be larger.
So of course, originally there was I guess a double or triple porch
Yeah.
across the whole.
Well,
yeah.
it's hard to say what,
Or at some point there was
so
that.
there, at some point, yes, at some point, there was the two front porches. I think, I'm not sure when those were taken down, but we're sort of taking the 1930s as our date of reference.
Right.
To restore back to the old hotel Abingdon.
And so the balcony, so I guess there's one balcony there now at one level, but not the upper, is that right?
Seems like
Yeah.
it.
And is it wood or metal?
I believe it is wood, I'm not sure honestly.
And so the balconies you're proposing are gonna be, are there a combination of metal and wood?
Yes, metal rail, wood, platform.
Wood platform,
To call what's there a balcony is kind of, it's really just a rail. I mean, there's maybe a foot or two, if that, you can barely get out on it. So this would be, you know, large enough that you could actually walk out on it, but obviously not. It's still fairly small in proportion to the rest of the building. I think it comes out, Matt, is it 3 feet?
Well, in a 360, that's where,
Are you matching those balconies based on the balconies in the picture that you showed us, or is this just sort of just a simple balcony you're proposing?
Yeah, it's just a simple balcony.
Were there two balconies in the picture you circulated?
It's on page 6 of the packet.
Yeah, it's this,
It
No,
was the
no, I'm
one.
talking
Oh.
about the date that
The one with the
they're.
hotel.
oh, the hotel
So
picture.
there is, yes, there are balconies in this. They're very small. It's hard to tell if there's two, because there was this large covering, like a portico-chair, originally. We're enlarging them, because honestly, I think just architecturally, it looks better than just the really small balcony.
I wasn't so concerned about the size as sort of the detailing of it.
Right, it's very difficult to tell
Yeah.
what was original. There's not a lot of
So
information.
what do you think the use is gonna be for this? I'm just curious.
It will be, well,
So that you don't have doors opening into space?
that?
Yeah.
So that you don't have doors opening into
yes,
space
yeah,
when
yeah.
you said.
As far as the overall building,
Yeah, I'm
The
just,
use?
for that balcony area.
oh, for the balcony?
Yeah.
It's a good
Oh,
speech-making place.
Right, in
Yeah, you
case
can have
the posse has a symbol
Yeah, right.
in front of the,
I don't think there is a use. I think what happened is they were the access to the porch and the porch is gone, and so
Yeah.
now it's,
Yeah.
now you.
you somehow just need to make sense of the doors
Right.
on
Right.
the front of the building.
Yeah.
And it would be nice,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
if there was a parade or something,
Yeah.
you could sit
Yeah.
on the balcony.
Aesthetically,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we
it
have
works.
If
visiting-
Avina comes and visit us.
Right, if we have a visiting dictator, he can take a speech on the balcony.
I think there must have been one there that we just can't see
I
because
think,
of
yeah, I
this
think because
canopy,
Well,
because
that's what I
yeah.
thought.
you can see something.
It
lying.
does make sense to make sense of the doors.
right.
Yeah,
yes.
you just have to deal with them.
The only concern I have is is the detailing of it to make it, not look super sleek and modern.
Right.
So I mean, I don't.
And I think you do that by making it not super sleek and modern.
Yeah.
They would be made of iron. They would have some ornamentation and detail. All of those small details would help to make it look vintage.
Right. And do the awnings have, in the pictures, they have sides to them, but these are just gonna have the
Yeah,
The
we
top
looked at it
part.
both ways. We kind of went back and forth on it. We're not especially married to necessarily having it without the sides. We seem to think that that made them feel a little bit heavy, having the sides. So, so this is kind of what we landed on, but we don't, again, it's not something that we're,
And is there something happening with the cornice?
the cornice is just being restored. Yeah.
Are all those brackets there now?
Are you gonna put brackets on the addition on the back?
It's a great question. We don't show them, and the reason why is we wanted to make that addition somehow subservient to the main mass. And by doing that, you have a slightly more simplified cornice. Again, we could add the brackets, but honestly, we felt it looked better without the brackets.
Another quick question I got, just out of curiosity, on the third floor where the elevator shaft goes to the top floor, is there enough space above that, so there's not gonna be a bump up?
That's why it's a little bit higher. If you can scroll down.
It is actually higher.
But then with the roof coming up, it's enough, just barely enough to get the elevator everything it needs.
Right.
Okay.
So the peak of the addition is the same height as the peak of the existing roof. But if you look at the eave is actually above the existing eave, because that's kind of, with the way the roof pitch is, and making the roof pitch of the addition match the roof pitch of the original structure, that was how we were able to match it up.
The peak is not quite up to the existing,
Well, it's close, yeah.
but I don't think it matters.
That wasn't our intent, it was
Another-
just to make sure the roof was elevated.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Going back to your original talking about the brick, that you're gonna repair the mortar and the brick, how are you, where that's all settled in the front, is that gonna be lined back up? What's the plan there? Or
Well,
is there?
So that was a little bit of a puzzle to us of how that happened. And early on, Matt did a structural report. So what originally was there were two large arch windows on the first floor. Those arches failed at some point, and they began to sink. They fixed the problem. They added a header above those windows and got rid of the arch, or actually not a header, I mean, they filled in the arch and added a column. So, needless to say, the settling has stopped. There's really not a good way of taking out that settling without,
Removing the
well, it's a solid masonry wall, it's a solid brick wall. So it's not like a brick veneer that you can
Oh,
take off and rebuild. It's a true masonry structure. So we are going to repoint it, we will repair it, and that's it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good solid wall.
Oh, yeah, so the front was painted red at one point. We did go back and forth on, well, do we go ahead and paint the front to match the red? What I think we have landed on is to clean the front, clean the paint that's flaking or loose, repoint the brick, and leave it as is. Don't try to repaint it, because I think if you try to repaint it, for one, it's unhealthy for the brick. It will look too uniform and new compared to the rest of the building. So our hope is that by painting or restoring the wood, exterior woodwork, by repointing it, by recleaning it, by cleaning it, that will kind of give it a finished enough appearance that will offset then the kind of the more distressed look of leaving the existing red paint. People will walnut shell blast the brick, but that brick is so soft, I would be very hesitant to try to remove the paint, because I think you would do a lot of damage to the brick.
I got one last question. On the addition of the windows on the facing the bank,
Yep.
you mentioned there were just gonna be 4 additional windows replaced, but on your drawing, it shows a whole new floor of windows.
Oh, is that?
Um,
Do you mind if I'm sorry,
That's-
it's been a while since.
I call that the north face.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
And your drawing,
We
this
said 4, so that was, so.
is your drawing.
Yeah, no, you're right. We're adding a whole new row to the bottom.
Oh,
And in addition, you can sort of see,
There were windows there at one
there
time.
were windows there,
Yeah.
and we're putting those windows back. But you're right, it's more than 4,
Okay,
absolutely. Thank you for that.
just for clarification.
Yes, thank you. for
Are
pointing that
are
out.
you going to table this lighting issue here or wait till later? Number 21 on here talks about the lighting, that you haven't provided any identified lighting on your renderings.
On the,
There just was no lighting provided, so
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
know if there was
Yeah.
lighting that was gonna be provided.
that would be something that we may consider and would, I think we'll have more than this one meeting for this
Okay.
project. And so, if we could take that up in a meeting in the future. Because I think, we'll need to, as far as the brick color, there's some details that will have to be worked out. So I fully anticipate.
Coming back to us with some other stuff.
So if we do decide on adding lighting, we'll submit that as a new solution.
I don't think I have any other questions.
So you'll need to come back if the certificate of appropriateness is granted for the brick and I guess the specific mortar color, we have to approve that. And although we would be approving, I believe, the buff color to match. And then also, I personally would like to see more detail on the, I guess we're calling them balconies.
Mhm.
What that's, more what if there's gonna be any sort of finials at the top of the post or anything like that, I'd like to see more of that. Is there any other questions, or are we ready for someone to formulate a motion?
Yeah, I'm
Right.
ready. Yeah.
I guess what we would appreciate at this stage is enough for us to get a building permit. There's a lot of work you have to do on the inside.
Right.
We could go ahead and build the cinder block structure, and all that has to happen before we'd add any new brick. So to get us to the point where we can get started, get some of this work done, and then at some point come back.
So, I think I can make the motion that we approve all the presented plans with clarification on the brick and mortar and the balcony.
Details.
Balcony details, yes.
Right. The concept of balcony is fine.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Just the details on the
Right.
balcony and the details on the brick and mortar, but does that cover it, pretty much? And the lighting.
And then I guess another thing on here was your garbage receptacle, which we don't really have to worry about, but I saw that.
It's one of the items that is part of what is in the standards. So.
Yeah.
Where is it going? Do we need to prove that?
Yeah.
Probably that, and then I would also suggest the sign,
Okay.
when you actually have your sign
Yeah.
developed.
Yeah.
So, can we add basically have that list of
Yeah.
items that will come back?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
if
guess
you
the guttering
have the
also?
copy of this,
The guttering will be, I think that's in the packet.
that's in the packet.
That will be 6-inch packet.
Yeah, the
Okay.
gutters are in here,
Right.
yeah.
What's the date of the building, original?
If you hadn't asked me, I would have
Just-
early 1900s. Or no, 1800s,
It was-
1800s, sorry. It was the Hattie
House Hotel.
House first,
And the hotel renovations were done in
in the early 1900s.
I mean, those cars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1908.
Probably.
I think there's actually a little news article about it.
Oh, yeah?
Let's see. Yeah.
Do you have that motion? You think you got it? Okay. It's been moved. Is there a second?
A second.
All right. A roll call?
Mr. Boyd,
Aye.
Mr. Owens,
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mrs. White,
Aye.
and Mr. Geisler.
Aye. Awesome. Well, that's gonna be great.
All right.
Just,
All right, thank you.
the other thing though, is that when
What's
he's
that?
ready to do
Project.
the awnings, there was a question about the awnings on here.
Okay.
That when he
We'll-
comes back with his
We'll get
extra
you the
stuff.
motions
Okay.
and all of that,
Yeah.
but what I've got here is the signs, the sign, lighting,
The
colored
original
brick,
awnings
balcony
are metal
details,
and-
garbage
I mean,
receptacles,
with
and then the
very last
awnings.
paragraph.
Sounds like they might have some additional questions, so,
Okay, great. On the awnings?
Well,
Open or closed?
open or
Oh,
closed.
okay.
That,
Thanks.
yeah, that's not specific to this project, that's just what the
Yeah.
guideline says.
I just noticed that it was on there.
Yeah.
So,
I don't-
All right, the
don't
next
think it would
item
be an issue.
is Mr. Bissett. Welcome back.
Hello.
Good to see you again. Although I have problems with these people, they didn't put door, they didn't put window in my building.
Your building's looking very plain over there.
It's a blank slate for you now.
Yeah, I'll talk to them about that. So, what do we have today, Mr. Boyd? How are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
Okay.
All right, you tell us about your project?
The lettering on the awning. They are going to be painted on the awning. Just talking to the guy. And we want the lettering to be red.
The awning,
It will, yeah.
the awning's
awning-
black, right?
The awning is black. There's, if it's red, the lettering is gonna stand out a lot more better than any other.
Do you have a diagram to show us? I mean, we need to know the font of the lettering, we need to know the size of it, we need to know.
The actual color.
Oh,
Is
I
is
apologize.
there a sign company that's gonna be doing that for you?
Yes,
Jerry's?
no,
What's the company?
they're very expensive.
Because they can do a
With all
mock-up,
due respect.
the sign company can do a mock-up drawing for you with the font and
Well,
everything.
actually, it is. Interstate Awning, ever heard of that?
No.
Yeah, so that's it, this is the lettering. She put something about the lettering in there, I believe.
So this is what's gonna be the,
Yeah, it's gonna say, no, I'm sorry, it's gonna say calzones, stromboli's in here, and of course speeds, I'm sorry. And on this side, that's the side view, it's gonna say just speeds.
okay.
For the pedestrian on Main Street.
So, the proposal is to have painted letters on the awning.
Yes, because if we put otherwise, it's gonna be complicated and, I mean, I went through it before and I think painted is, that's how they do it. They can do other kind of lettering, but that one is the easiest to explain and the simplest, and it's just painted on the awning. That's it.
And not to bring up but this doesn't look like, as I recall, the kind of awning that we approved.
No, that's it.
It is?
That's it as well. That's it. Maybe from the, no, that is very normal, because if you don't do that, that's the pitch for the snow.
I just didn't remember, I was
Yeah.
thinking it was
No,
more
that's-
just a slant down
No,
awning.
no,
But-
that pitch over there for the snow and of course the rain. Because if you
Because this
don't-
is a very flat kind of awning with a curved front, it looks like. I just didn't remember that. And what, is it a canvas awning?
Yeah,
It's canvas, black canvas.
yeah.
Because, I mean, to me, it looks like a sign, which is kind of what my issue is a little bit with it,
The sign?
is that we don't typically have signs on awnings. Is that correct?
And it's gonna be a lot larger than what we allow.
Yeah, our allowance is not to exceed 4 feet, right?
Do you have are you not gonna have a sign that says Mama Mia's somewhere?
Like, how do they know the name of your place? Is there,
Well, yes, well, that's the next meeting.
because
Maybe
this
you better
is,
tell us all of it, right?
Well, yes, it's above the awning, it's gonna be my logo. I'm gonna put there my logo. and then on the right side, Mama, and on the left side, Mama.
Mhm.
On the right side, it's gonna be Mia.
Right.
It's gonna be basically the same as the one behind y'all.
That big?
Not as that big, no, not as that big. So big enough to see,
Well,
you
it can
know,
only be big enough as our regulations allow, which
which is,
it's, what's it?
4 square
4
feet.
square feet.
Of all
For
si-
everything.
signage.
no,
Your
it's gonna be
entire,
a circle, so what's
well,
the
your
diameter?
circle plus your writing, the entire sign can only be
Oh,
4
and-
square feet, everything, not just
So-
pieces of it,
So like 2 by 2?
Yep.
for everything. The circle and the words. The
The
whole,
circle and the words?
yes.
I'll tell you. So,
I guess we'll put just the circle.
so if there's a vote of 4-1, you can't, well, I mean, you do have the freedom in a vote of 4-1 to basically alleviate any of the design criteria. But, in my staff opinion, I would consider lettering on an awning to be part of the
I
signage.
do
So, in general, because you didn't provide the square footage, we don't have, right now, if they're approving 20 square footage of signing and you come back in for more, I mean, it's really difficult without having the square footage to make a determination of how much signing they wish to grant you. Like, if they give you this tonight, and then you come back in and ask for more signage,
You can't have that many signs.
I mean, you mean come back for more signage as in the logo?
Yes, because.
That's gonna be considered another sign.
Because
Right.
essentially, all your letters on the awning make a sign.
But it still can't be bigger than 4 square feet.
Oh, so you're telling me either or?
Well,
and how
no,
many-
Either on the awning or on the circle?
you can ask for it all, because they can make a motion for all of it. Right now, you just haven't provided them any square footage. They kinda need to see it all.
What's the number of signs that are allowed?
It's supposed to be 2 for the entire,
And each one has to be 4 square feet, or
that's what the, I mean, that's
each one
what-
is limited to that?
yeah.
That's what the, yes, that is what the limitations are. There is a caveat in there that any of the design regulations that you all wish to alleviate, you can, but, 4 square feet is the underlying base for all signage. 2 locations, because he has 2 street frontages.
So you're allowed to have 2 signs at this building?
In the front?
No,
Okay.
yeah,
For the
at
entire
your
building.
building, your whole building.
Okay.
And they each have to be 4 square feet or smaller. Am I right so
Correct.
far? So your awning, that you're turning into a sign, is too big. It's more than 4 square feet.
Okay. Why do we call it a sign?
Because you're putting lettering on it.
So
You're
that
advertising
automatically makes it a
pizza,
sign?
strombolis, and.
Makes it a sign?
Yeah.
Yes, because the idea is to keep, advertising lettering in the historic district at a minimum size.
Hmm.
I mean,
Somebody, okay.
all these rules are designed to have a certain look in the historic district. So if you just had big awnings everywhere with big lettering all over it, that would sort of defeat the purpose.
Well, forgive me
Right,
for
so
this
you
question,
can-
but I have to ask it because
Okay.
I'm ignorant about
No,
this.
you're not ignorant. You can
Thank
ask any
No,
question
ignorant
you
as in
want.
not knowledge, not the
Byron.
other kind
If
of
you'll-
ignorance.
Hang on just a second.
Okay.
Read.
I'll read it out loud, how does
There.
that sound?
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
section 22, signs and graphic designs, so that's where you're talking about signs and lettering. Signs should be kept to a minimum with no more than 2 signs per building. Signs shouldn't be appropriate in size. Individual signs should not exceed 4 square feet. But they have the ability to vote for more square footage because it says sign size restrictions do not apply to hotels, theaters, restaurants, and churches. So they can allow you more square footage
Okay.
if they know what it is.
So I guess what would be helpful to us is to know what the total amount of signage you're proposing and what the sizes of that are going to be so that we can make, a decision on that.
We have no idea if each letter is 6 inches tall or 10 inches tall. We have no idea how your
This-
letter, what font it is.
This guideline also says the
What it says in there.
board approval as to the size of these signs is required and may be granted according to historic precedents.
Okay, so your proposal shows that the lettering is going to be 7.5 inches tall.
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know how wide.
Well, he's gonna use all three sides of his awning.
Right. And I guess the awning goes across the majority of your building. How wide is how wide is the front of your building?
I wanna say 26 or 28.
Feet.
Huh? Feet, yeah.
So does the awning go all the way across the door?
It goes all the way from,
To the-
it goes all the way from
across, okay.
the north side of the building across the door, up to about, looks like 2 or 3 feet from the other end.
So that would be approximately 17.5 square feet of signage on the awning.
That's just for the front. That's the
Correct.
gut.
I mean, again, sorry for the interruption.
That's all right.
Now, this is, I really do respect whoever put the rules for the historic district, and we wanna keep it that way. But also, we wanna think also on the business, perspective and business, I mean, business, if there's no something in the business to be recognized from far away, forgive me for the word, what's the point of me reading it when I am right next to the door? I'm sure I'm gonna know it's calzone. People are getting out of the building with boxes of pizza. So that's a pizza and calzones and stromboli. So the reason of writing that pizza, stromboli, calzone, and with quite big lettering is just because for someone a bit far away from the building to read, oh, yeah, I see, that's it, oh, yeah, there's a pizzeria there, and let me go over there. Or someone walking, our town is a touristic town, and we have a lot of pedestrians, especially in the summertime. And those pedestrians, sometimes, they don't go to Google, they just walk in Main Street and they discover our town. If I don't, for example, if I don't put that word pizza on the other side, people possibly wouldn't even see that there's a place in there that's a pizzeria. So at least for a pedestrian wants to see it from Main Street. So the purpose of all this is to make people notify people to recognize that place. And when they do, that's more revenue and more surviving situation.
Well, but I understand what you're saying, and everything you've said would apply to certainly a modern commercial enterprise, but that's really not the point in the historic district. The point in the historic district is to make, to preserve sort of a feel of an historic place and to not have that disrupted by a lot of sort of commercial advertising. So that's really not the focus in the historic district and not the focus of this board. And, I mean, I don't think we would even remotely consider something this size in the middle of the historic district on Main Street or you know, a black awning with red letters. We would just never approve that. I think what we're struggling with is you're on sort of the edge of the historic district in an area where there's not a lot of other buildings around, but what happens is anytime we approve something, it gets, then the next property owner that wants to do something like this in another area, it becomes a problem because the first thing they're gonna say is you approved this for that restaurant. And so, you know, no one's saying no definitively yet. We're just trying to process this and try to figure out, you know, what's the best answer. I mean, we hear what you're saying, but that's an argument for, you know, a building out by the interstate or down by one of the shopping centers or something. That's not something that we are overly concerned about providing commercial advertising for buildings in the historic district. I mean, I know that's important to you and you've got to make that happen, but it's just like, you know, we're not about energy efficiency. That's an important goal, but we don't allow people to change out their windows to make their buildings energy efficient because we're architectural preservation. That's what we do. So it doesn't really follow what you're presenting. Anyway, other comments, questions?
Well, I'd just like to kind of reiterate what he's saying is, these are our guidelines that we have to stick to. And if we don't follow these guidelines, why have them? Because if we allow you to have multiple signs and multiple sizes that are not in our guidelines, the next person that comes in is gonna say, I wanna do the same thing too, but we can't because we are bound by these guidelines. So you have to understand that, I understand what you're trying to say, but we can't do it. You know, you're gonna have to figure out a different way to advertise in the historic district because we're bound by this. Does that make sense?
For pedestrian, there isn't. I've tried. There isn't.
But
If
what
you
you're not
come
understanding is we cannot go against these guidelines just for
I'm not.
you.
No, I
You know?
swear to God, I'm not asking you to do that. No, I'm not asking you to do that, to go against those. It's just a remark. It might not help this meeting, but it's just a remark for the future. I think the most strict rules in life are the religious rules. Even those rules, with changing of times and changing of nations and changing of the world, sometimes they get twisted just a little bit to kind of help life, because 17 centuries back, it's not the same as 2022. So I think by doing those guidelines, I'm not, with all due respect to them, really, from the bottom of my heart, but I think those rules also, I think in the future, we need to touch them a little bit and change a little bit, because if we're gonna keep those rules until eternity, then we're gonna limit that area just for, I don't know, housing, for.
For
We cannot
preservation.
have restaurant there, we cannot have, I mean, you can have them, but you will limit that
The
person.
purpose of these rules is for preservation. We want to keep things preserved. I mean, if you start tweaking things a little bit as you go,
Yeah, I
then there's
know.
no preservation.
Do you-
know?
do you-
Yeah, I know, but.
Do you think
yeah,
you
like I
could,
said,
so, and another thing is, that colors should be coordinated with the overall, this is with regard to signs. Appropriate logos or symbols may be used. Colors should be coordinated with the overall building colors and have lettering appropriate to the size of the sign and the architecture of the building. So, you know, you now have a white building, and you're gonna have a black awning with red lettering. And, you know, that may be desirable from the standpoint of getting someone's attention,
mhm.
but the red lettering that's not consistent with our guidelines that wants your lettering to be more consistent with the building. Now, I'm not telling you we strictly enforce that in every situation, but where you're asking for so much in terms of signage, you know, it would be helpful if you would tone those, if maybe you would use white letters instead of red letters. These are all matters of degree. I mean, it's still a problem with the sign size, but I'm just saying, we're trying to accommodate you, but we want to, as much as we can, preserve the historic feel of the historic district. So
Okay.
I'm just throwing that out as a suggestion. It still doesn't solve the other problem, but having your letters consistent with the color of your building, I think would be helpful.
Okay, well, that's my question, I think you answered it now. So if I do that, will that be more helpful?
I think
Because we-
it would be helpful if you could come back with the whole package, based on what these comments have been, to come back with the whole thing drawn that we can see. The Mamma Mia's and your logo, and then this on the awning, maybe using a couple of options of what you could do that takes into consideration what's been said to you. And we'll keep trying to approve it.
And I think if you could make the amount of what's gonna, in essence, be the size of your sign on the awning not be so large, that would be helpful. Because right now, it's this, you know, way beyond our guidelines for size. We can vary that, but
It's way beyond.
way beyond.
And what is your intention then for having, I mean, you can't have a sign now on the side of your building, you know, like you're limited to the amount and size, both. So you just can't put a sign on all four sides of your building so people can see it from the road. I mean, it's just the way it is. So, you know, on the side there where you've put the patio, you can't have a sign there if you're gonna have two signs in the front. You know, you have to think about all those things before you come back to us. Exactly what signage are you asking us to approve? Where exactly is it going to be placed? What size is it? What color is it? What are the materials?
Does
I
he
mean,
have a copy of the guidelines on signage?
We wanna go back to the color of the lettering. Actually, as a matter of fact, I chose white. But my daughter, the wife, son, all of them, picked red.
Well, you know, you're,
Really, I'm making it so simple
So-
and so easy for y'all and me.
and another option here is, you know, if you don't turn your awning into a sign, you avoid that problem. You could have two four-square signs on the front of the building if you wanted to, one saying the Mamma Mia's like you want, and then you could have, you know, pizza, calzone, stromboli on another sign that fits our size, and have all that just, and still have the awning the size that it is if you don't turn the awning
Well,
into
you
a
still
sign.
have that big sign on the back though, right? Are you planning to leave that?
Well, that one is tore up anyway.
I mean, but I'm saying
Yeah.
that is also a sign. When you're thinking about, and that's bigger than but that was on the building, I know, before you bought it and stuff. But that sign is way bigger than we approved too. So if it's torn up and coming down, you gotta think about that.
I mean, do you think you could come back and just let us, and revisit this and show us your total signage and what you want, and keep in mind our guidelines, and let us take another look at this?
Okay, here's my question. The logo, can we separate the logo from the signage on the awning?
We can, it's
Which
just,
means-
you just have to recognize that our guidelines sort of call for 2 signs, 4 square feet, except for restaurants, we can let it be more, but
Okay, that's exactly what I'll ask you next. How much can you allow more in a situation like this?
well, I think that's why we would like to see your total plan for signs, so that we know what
Every
we're getting
single,
into.
every single letter that you wanna put on that building, we need to see it before we approve anything.
Because if we don't want to go over and then be asked to go over again, and, I mean, we need to see the whole concept to know what we're approving. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
That way we can tell if it is too much, too large,
And too many.
Take too much space up, if we see the whole thing.
Let me ask another question. That says pizza, stromboli,
Calzones.
whatever, yeah, calzones. So, when you take one of the word out, does that minimize from the signage, or the signage is considered the whole material of that awning? Am I correct?
Well,
So let's say I'm gonna write just pizza, just the word pizza. Is it considered also the same signage?
there's not a black and white answer to your question. What we're saying is that when you put lettering on the awning, you turn it into a sign. And so if those letters go all the way across the awning, then that to our way of thinking is a very big sign that is beyond our guidelines. So I think the smaller you make the lettering, the better from our perspective. But
Or the less lettering, like you
Yes.
just said. I mean,
Or the less lettering, exactly, that's my
yes,
question,
the
yeah.
the awning is not a sign. It got turned into a sign by putting lettering on it. You know, the awning by itself is not a sign.
if you didn't put any lettering on it, we wouldn't even consider it a sign, and then you would have, you know, 2 more you'd have 2 signs that you could put on the building.
As Byram said, if you didn't put it on the awning, you could have one sign on the front there, and then one sign over on the side.
Or on the back.
Or on the back, or wherever you would want to put it.
Or you could put them both on the front if you want.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
totally up
You're
to
allowed
you.
2 signs.
There's only one problem,
Uh-huh.
is that we've been shut down now for about we're going for a little over
Right.
4 months.
Right,
And that hurts a little bit.
yes.
Well, we can have a special meeting
And-
if you need us to come, I mean, we can have a meeting to deal with this, but we need to see,
Okay.
we would, I mean, to not waste your time, we would need to see the full plan of what it's gonna look like, what the size is gonna be, what the colors are gonna be, everything, so we could take action on it.
And we don't mind having a special meeting to do it.
Thank you, you've done it before.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
I mean,
Okay.
and if you wanted us to have it out at your place, so you could walk us around, walk us through it in person, we can do that. Once
Okay,
you figure-
let me have another,
Okay.
I mean, let me have it, let me,
Right.
let me make another, yes.
Okay, we'll table this and then you just let us know.
Okay, so what you want is, do you want something like this, plus the logo circle on top of it?
Everything you want to put on that building.
It's
we need
totally
to
up to you how you do it. We're just telling you what our guidelines are, and that the more you're asking for the signage to be larger, the more difficult it is for us.
So we just want to see a complete idea of what you want, not just part of it.
And just bear in mind what our guidelines are, that we're starting from the standpoint of, we can easily approve 2 signs, each 4 square feet or less, with coloring that matches your building. That we can do in a heartbeat. Anything beyond that becomes more problematic.
As far as the awning, what is it like missing as far as information?
It's,
That way I'll work on it.
okay, the length of the lettering, we don't know the house, we don't know how much we need to know that.
Okay.
We need to know the actual font, what the letters are going to look like.
How high, how?
Well, the style of them, the style, what the style, I mean, are they gonna be cursive lettering, or? are they
No,
gonna be-
that letter.
Okay,
Exactly.
and then we also, obviously need to know the color,
The height and the thing and the
Yeah.
wide, the width?
yes,
Okay.
And the color.
and the color,
The color is white.
okay. And then, so that's what we would need to know on that, and then your other sign, the same thing, what it's gonna be made of, the materials, what colors it's going to be, the lettering that's going to be on it, the style of lettering that's going to be, we need all of that information on the other sign also,
And the size.
and the size.
Have you talked to Jerry's about, because they know our guidelines, I don't know if the person you're working with knows our
Well,
guidelines.
I mean, I hate to talk about other businesses, but again, I'm gonna say it. I approached them before for a job, and, I mean, honestly, we'll leave it to them.
Okay, all right.
Very, very, very expensive, to be honest. So this is Interstate Awning,
Are they gonna do your other sign?
huh?
Is Interstate on?
No, as a matter of fact, the other sign, the thing is gonna be, basically, it's gonna be made with the same material, because this guy does a lot of the town's signs.
The same material as what?
As the sign, as the town sign, you know, you go to the town sign,
Okay.
and municipalities and everywhere. He does few of them, which his name, the Abingdon sign.
Okay, I know what you're talking
You know what I'm talking about? As a matter of fact, one of his relatives used to work here with y'all,
about. Okay.
one of the members. So, that doesn't mean he knows about your rules, no, he doesn't at all.
Okay,
But he makes some of the signs for the town, so the same material.
gotcha.
And as a matter of fact, also, he made me a rectangular sign, and we came here and you guys approved it about 4 years ago. Believe it or not, I didn't put it.
Okay.
Yes, but for me to bring you the material of that sign, I'll have to bring that rectangular.
You don't have to,
thing
you can
because-
just tell us what it is. Is it
I don't
like
know
some
what it is.
extruded something that looks like, I mean, I think we.
Well,
it's a
he could tell you what
polymer.
it is.
Yeah, he can tell you.
He could tell you what the
Material?
material
Yeah,
is.
just have him tell us what it is. Just-
Okay, and the color, how are we gonna do the color?
Well, you just let
a
us,
picture?
just let us know what colors you're gonna use.
Okay.
Yeah.
The individual that's gonna build your sign for you, he will be able to do a mock-up, computer generated, the size, the lettering, the colors and everything, and give that to you to present to us.
Or you can ask him to come with you.
No, with all due respect to the guy, he does not do that. But, however, I have a PDF of my logo. It has the color, and it has everything. I will email it to her, and that way we'll see it. And with that, I'll bring a piece of paper that has the size, the diameter, and
The
what's
material.
gonna be written on the left or the right.
Okay,
All right.
Sound
okay,
good?
yes.
Do we need a motion to table this?
I would make a motion to table that. I would also ask that all of that be turned in prior to the meeting, so we can actually have it in the packet.
Okay, that's a good idea. Can you?
And then you do have a second thing about the brick on the building before you leave. You did have a second
Oh,
item.
this
so-
didn't go well. I forgot about the other.
Yeah.
I don't have emails here anymore. The brick, I mean, this is, for the brick, it's something for later on, way down the road.
Okay.
I wanna break the rest of the building.
Okay, so
Simple as that.
we'll deal with that later then. Is that what you want to do?
Yes,
Okay.
it's, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to table this? And also, you understood that you need to submit all those materials before our next meeting so it can be in our packet.
Yes.
We don't want you to just show up with it. We need it to be submitted to the office beforehand.
Okay.
Because if you submit something to us, then we can guide you. Like, if you had submitted that drawing, we could have told you, please provide the square footage and all of that ahead of time.
You're right.
We're here to help,
Yes, I know.
okay?
All right, so is there a motion to table this matter?
I'll make the motion to table.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Mr. Boyd?
I abstain.
Okay. Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
And Mr. Beasley?
Aye. All right, thank you. Let
Thank
us
you.
know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good
Okay,
night.
thank you. All right, and then the next item is tax abatement for Susan and Rick Humphries. And I think Rick was not able to be with us tonight, but I think all the information is in our packet.
Yep. Mhm.
Did anyone have any questions or comments regarding this issue?
I don't.
Is
Well,
the
it's-
date on here the last time it was painted? Is that the 2013?
It's already, I mean, all the work's been done.
Oh, okay. I just was curious.
We're not, he's not
Yeah.
asking for approval.
Right,
No, I
yes.
was just asking about the time. I'm just curious.
But it's not our responsibility to confirm the expenditures.
No,
Yeah, we just,
We just take,
he's got all of his invoices.
Yeah.
I think
I
our
know,
only
but I
issue
mean,
is
that's not
to
for us
say
to
that
do
it's,
the math.
I think it's
No.
just our issue to say,
Yeah.
was the work done as it was required to do, and then approve it, right?
Correct.
And I guess that's.
It's up to him.
We understand from the staff that's the case.
Correct.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to approve the request for the tax abatement for the Humphries?
I so move.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
And Mr. Geisler?
Aye. All right. And then, I'm sure there's no public, so there's no public comments. And then we have a discussion of the new zoning and subdivision ordinance update.
And I just wanted to say one thing. So the way that our application currently reads, I think it allows for people to submit things quite loosely, because it just says, please describe the entire project. And so, we get an application like tonight where they simply say brick facade. So we are going to have some new application going forward where it's just asking more specific detail in the actual
Well, that's
application.
good, yeah.
I think it will trigger people to actually research it a little more and not put so much of it in sort of this display arena, so. I just wanted to add that to the list. So I just wanted to provide you all tonight with what's happening. We don't have to talk about it tonight. I think the next meeting would be more appropriate when you've had a chance to really look at it. But I talked to the Berkeley group, and this first section here is the idea of the combined sub-districts. So instead of having the total number that we have now, you would end up with 5 sub-districts. Sub-district 1, which would be a civic business focus, sub-district 2, which would be residential focus, sub-district 3, which is artisan focus, sub-district 4, which is the Sinking Spring Cemetery, and sub-district 5, which is the muster ground.
Can you
So-
slow down a second? I'm not sure, I'm kind of lost here.
Oh, here, it looks like this at the start.
Yes, you have it.
Yeah.
Attachment F, okay. Got it.
So, this is their proposal. So this is the proposal from the Berkeley group, and I know that oftentimes, being an advisory group, you know, it's the planning commission that's taking the action, but you all are the implementers of that. And so I feel strongly that if this is not what you want, that we would need to forward a memo to the planning commission. So we don't need to really, you know, get into it tonight, but this is their suggestion for the districts. Does it make sense?
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, and it's, there's a map here that shows what they're
Yeah.
proposing.
Yep.
So basically, it's a residential, in the historic district, there's proposed a residential focused, obviously, by that state, and then a business district, basically.
Right.
And the only reason that's gonna make any difference is the uses that are permitted in the individual sub-districts.
Yep, so then you have this, which is a large, a large thing for you to look at, but it is all the uses that would be allowed in the zoning, in all of the zoning districts for the town of Abingdon. So you can see here that, for example, agriculture is clearly not in any of the historic sub-districts. But when you get to other uses, then you can see, the B means that they're permitted by right, and then there's some that are special use permits, in here. So I'd like you all to look at this, and maybe we could spend some time one of the next meetings, actually deciding if there are any uses that you do or don't want to be permitted.
I have one comment to make,
Yeah.
and it's more of a question, I guess, but, and it's not, I'm not trying to make a negative, statement here, but are they indicating that these, like in sub-district 1, civic business focus, that then we wouldn't want to allow anybody to have a residential place in that area, and vice versa?
So let's see, so you see dwelling, single family.
What
If you look
Where
at
are you
page
looking now?
3 of 21, this really large spreadsheet here.
Okay,
And you will see that in OH1, civic focus, all the way through the residentially focused ones, single-family residential dwellings is a permitted use. So you're not saying that the only area that you would not be looking at single families would be that artisan-focused area, which is kind of just the area we were talking about tonight, which is Mamma Mia's and.
well, I guess what my point is, that one of the things that has always set this, historic district apart as being very successful is its mixed use, is the residential and business mix. Businesses alongside people that are living up on the upper floor of that, or, you know, an apartment here and a house there. Does this prohibit that?
No, so let's look at the inverse then. So you're asking then, could I have let me just look at a business use.
Well, I mean, they use the word focused, so maybe
Focused,
it's
right.
not prohibitive,
So,
but-
for example, a bed and breakfast, let's say somebody wanted to purchase a home,
What page is that?
that would be on page 8 of 21. If you wanted to do a bed and breakfast, you would be allowed to do that in all of the sub-districts, other than obviously the Sinking Spring Cemetery. If you wanted to do, if you look on page 9 of 21, if you wanted to do a daycare center, you could do that in the residentially focused. You could do that, but you'd have to come through a special use permit. So you could make sure there was parking, and, so it's not saying that there aren't businesses in the residential. It's just saying, I think it's more focused on, trying to make sure that a lot of the homes in the historic focused area aren't just easily converted into businesses. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that does make sense, but, I mean, one of the beauties of our district, and one of the reasons why it's nice for, in a business district, for there to be residential, is the fact that at night, it doesn't close
Yeah.
up and become dark and nobody's there. That's one of the nicest things that we have here.
Yep, so in the business focused area, you would be able to do, let's see, should be able to do, so in the artisan focus, which is the area around Mamma Mia's and here we were just talking about on page 3 of 12, they're saying that they would think that you could put apartment buildings in there with their apartment buildings as well as single-family dwellings. So they're allowing for all of the residential uses to be in the business-focused area. And then in the artisan-focused area, they're suggesting, and again, this is where we can have a future discussion, they're suggesting more of the apartment style.
Okay.
So like on page 5 of 21.
Yeah.
Short-term rental, would that be like Airbnb?
Yeah, so we need to discuss that. That's why it's next on the list, but let's just go ahead and launch into it. So I can tell you right now that I get a call pretty much, well, Janice can tell me, every day, I don't know, every couple of days, with somebody wanting to buy a building or a structure or a home to put a short-term rental in. Currently, every short-term rental that exists out there, the 27 that are online, are basically being done illegally unless they're in a business district. I am guessing, but I don't know, that you all are supportive of short-term rentals in the OH districts. That's that's kind of a statement / question. Are you supportive of short-term rentals in the OH districts?
How many are in the historic district currently?
Out of the 27, I cannot tell you, I did not,
What's your definition of short-term rental?
Sure. So right now, what we have is someone can do a bed and breakfast, which means you have to live there, you're providing a room, you're providing the breakfast. There is homestay, which is essentially somebody is living or comes and stays in your home, similar to a bed and breakfast, but you may or may not be providing them breakfast.
Like an Airbnb?
Similar, but it's not the same, and it's got a limited time frame, and it's a license. It's not it's not really just like a short-term rental. So the only reference to short-term rental we have is an amendment that occurred in January of 2021 that allowed true short-term rentals in B1, B2, and B3. So the homestays have a limitation of, I think, 90 days or something total out of a year. So a true short-term rental would be you either renting out a portion of your home, separate, you do not provide breakfast, there is not really a connection, a person comes, they check in perhaps, you might leave a key. There is not a amount of time that is dictated, so you could rent your space out 365 days a year. You don't need to actually, have an interaction with that person. The second style would be somebody purchases a home, they never live there, they rent the entire home or a unit in a home. I mean, they could, subdivide it into a couple of homes, and a person stays there on Airbnb. That is what you're renting out, and that is what you are renting as a consumer. You are going and you're looking for dates available in a certain area, and you are renting.
It could be for a week or 3 days.
It could be
or
for a
1
week,
night.
1 night, 3 days, whatever you as the person who's putting it on there. Now, there has been some discussion of adding short-term rentals. It looks like we actually got it on here twice, but there's a discussion of adding short-term rentals to the new zoning ordinance. There's a couple of things that I find problematic in the addition as it's recommended right now. They're looking at limiting it to 104 rental days a year. I do not have the staff nor the capacity to monitor if you've rented it 104 days out of the year and you've rented it 93, or if you really don't like your neighbor and you're monitoring every time a car's there and you come in and tell me they've rented it 107, you need to shut them down. So we can try to control them, if that is something that people desire. It's going to be very difficult, in general. Some of the other suggestions were keeping a log of all the tenants that the town can see at any point, and I'm like, again, I find those things way too intrusive. And again, it sets us up to be in a compliance issue where I don't like the fact that you have an Airbnb, and so therefore I'm searching the code for ways to shut you down.
That sounds like an invasion of privacy
I
to me.
think so
Correct.
too.
What is
So-
the point, why
Nobody's
is the
business.
reason for that?
Yeah.
Except that,
So why would you limit Airbnbs or short-term rentals in general? The number one reason is housing affordability. So if you allow short-term rentals, the concept is that instead of buying a home for $200,000 to live in, I'm now possibly buying an investment property. And so now I'm willing to pay $350,000 for that same home that I would have, because I know that I'm making income off of it. And so for years, there's been sort of a backlash to short-term rentals because this concept is that they drive up the price of homes in tourist communities. So that is the real, planning concept behind why
I
you
mean,
try
I
to limit
feel,
them.
I feel very strongly that short-term rentals are good for the town. I own a house that I rent out. If someone has a flood and their floors are flooded, they rent my house for 6 weeks. I still pay taxes on that. It's done under a business license. I mean, I don't understand what people think. We're driving up property values in a historic district, which already, there's other housing in our town that's not historic, so.
I think the
mean,
major concern, and I have short-term and long-term rentals.
I just don't know that your deadline of short-term, someone might call me and say, I need 90 days between my 2 real estate closings. I'm not gonna turn that money down. But if you're
Unless
saying
people-
104 days, it's like, pretty,
that's 2 days
I
a
think-
week.
I think the
average.
long-term concern,
That would be 2 days a week.
more and more of these properties become short-term rentals, then you have a transient community. You don't have a community that are here long-term, participating in the community, going to church here, becoming members of a board here. It would be more like Damascus, when the tourist season is over with, it's a dead town.
I'm not
That's the-
talking about
that's the
tourists
point. And that's the
necessarily.
concern.
I'm talking about like doctors, interns, people that come and wanna rent 3 months. You're saying we're not gonna be able to do that?
It would be limited, is what she's,
At the
The discussion.
moment, yeah,
The discussion.
Yeah, I
again,
hear you.
this is just the
because
discussion.
I guess you wanna look to see how you want Abingdon to look at 50 years from now, or 20 years from now, 30 years from now. I like my income from my rental properties, but I also don't want to, this time of year, just to be dark. And that's what happens right now, especially in Damascus, there's nobody there. Cause the short-term rentals are not being rented, and the people that own those properties are not there. So that's the concern that we need to decide, how do we want this community to look like 20, 30, 40, 50 years?
That's a big question and a thought-provoking question.
Yeah, so I don't know the answer.
So,
I'm like, go ahead.
Maya knows that, and some of you know that I've been seriously thinking of turning my office into Airbnb and operating my reduced scale practice out of my house. So, a couple things there. If I don't do that, I would just have, as a rental property, that would be my only other option, would be just have it as a rental property, but obviously, I prefer the income that you potentially can get from Airbnb. And the other thing is, as I live there, it's not gonna mean there's less activity in that piece of property, because I'll still be there. So,
That would
I
be
think there are a lot of kind of,
would be more the homestay.
Well, you're still paying the
scenario.
lodging tax every month, and you're doing that kind of thing too. So the town is making money on your short-term rentals.
I think what Mike is saying is, as I said, I think this is a complicated question. And what he's saying does have a lot of, it does make sense that, just what I was saying a little while ago about, not living not allowing residential, everybody goes home at night, and so it's a dead business area. And this is the same thing here, that you're saying, like right now, when all that rental stops right this minute, then those particular houses are dark for a while, and that's probably not great for the town. I was going to say, to start with, I like it because this is a very tourist-oriented town, and it gives people a place to stay right in the district and walk around. But it's not constant. I mean, that's a point that he made right there that I've never thought about.
Well,
Another trend I'm seeing also are, like the block below me, there's 4 residents that have been bought in the last 2 years that are non-residents. They have bought this as a second home, and they're only here 3 or 4 months out of the year. They don't rent it, but
Yeah.
those houses are
Yeah.
dark. There's nobody living, and there's a couple behind you
And that's their
that are
personal
the
choice.
same way.
I guess we
Yeah.
can't do a thing about that, though.
No,
Yeah, I think this is complicated.
So this is a decision this is a zoning decision
Yeah,
that
it's
the
not
town
really
council will be
historic
making?
board.
It is, but it's just, I think that coming to you all is a really good, like, if you wanted to present a memo to them with your recommendation, et cetera, this is the time, this would be the time to do it.
And is
so.
this the proposal that's been made by the Berkeley group?
That's correct.
And so this, the town, no one on the town has acted on this, this is just their proposal?
No action yet, no, you are correct. So what they are saying, and then we have, there's additional things. I just think that, the homestay, it just doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, before Airbnb, it was called couch surfing, where people would stay on couches instead of staying in an actual room.
I've never
And-
heard of that.
Yeah, and I think that was, I
never-
think that's where the homestay kind of comes into play, where you're like renting a room, but that seems very awkward to people to rent a room in your house.
it's the last thing I would want.
So on,
Yeah.
on this chart and this map
Yep.
then, so like where it says, business focus, that would be the pink.
Yes.
Is there any way to get the map colors to match the chart colors? Cause it's kinda, it would really make it a lot easier to look back and forth.
Well, let's see,
Is
so OH, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think that they combined those colors. I think they were showing you all the different districts and trying to show you how those districts were combined.
Right.
So you would prefer to have a color along the top where it says like residentially focused.
Well, no, I mean, I think the chart's fine, but
Yeah.
if I could look and see
Yes.
that all the green on here,
Okay,
then
sure.
if that was
Absolutely.
residential. See, it's yellow here and green, it's
Yeah.
just hard
Yeah,
to,
that's what I
my
was-
mind doesn't work
I
that
can
way.
definitely send this spreadsheet out with that.
Well, if they would just change the
Yeah.
map, that would fix it.
Yep,
Just call
either
the
or.
map-
Just
call
color the map to match
match
the chart.
yeah.
To Mike's point about a lot of those properties being dark at certain seasons, and I think if the tourism business in this part of the country continues to expand the way I think a lot of people hope it does, or it's going to, whether they hope it does or not. I just think of friends, I have friends in Savannah, which is not Abingdon by any means. But their Airbnb is they can book it every night of the year. And I think when there's a casino and when there's, and if Bristol, Virginia can get the stink fixed, so people will want to come back after coming once and smelling it. I just think a lot of things are sort of in the favor of being able to maintain a occupancy more nights of the year in a property like this.
I struggle with my decision because, like I said, I generate income.
you know, but then I start looking at this community in the future. Are we going to be creating a problem, to where that, there are just rental properties and no residents, or a vast majority of the properties are rental properties and there's not many residents? You know, I don't know the answer to that.
I mean,
That's
you
what I
could,
struggle
if
with.
you had 10 rentals, they would all be rented right now.
Oh, you can rent anything.
Right, so, I mean, you're not saying there's not people in this town.
I'm saying stable people that are gonna be on boards.
But a lot of people that have rented from me have ended up, are renting because they're buying a house, or they're doing something like that, and they do stay. I mean, I don't do Airbnb, but I'm just
But-
saying.
But the vast majority of people don't. You know, they come and visit for the weekend or the.
Yeah, I'm not
weekend.
I'm talking about like a longer rental, but more than 100 days.
Yeah, so right now, a short-term rental is anything less than 30, so it sounds like what you're doing is just considered a
Right.
rental.
I know,
and wouldn't
yeah.
be a part of this at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of support for short-term rentals from most people. So I just wanted to make
I
sure
don't
if
know
you
where I
all,
stand.
if you all came out strongly against
I
it.
lean towards it myself.
Yeah.
But I think that, and to your point, Mike, I think that's a good point that I really hadn't thought about. But I think that, I don't think that we're going to I mean, I hope we're not going to lose people wanting to actually live here in residence. It's such a beautiful place to live. And one of the reasons is it is this good blend that I keep talking about.
Well, if there are places for tourists to stay and tourists keep coming, then we're just gonna have more Days Inn and Holiday Inn
Right.
Expresses.
That's
and
right,
at the exits.
that's the other thing,
You know,
yeah.
I can't believe how
Right.
many there are now.
And those people, you know,
They must
Yeah, that is a huge.
sell
point right
rooms so they
there.
wouldn't build
That's my
them.
point
Was
of
the-
of it being
with the
nice.
casino.
Was the
that'll be
Mercantile,
more.
was that gonna be, was that 20 units or short, how many short-term?
Yeah, so he would like to do, 19 long-term and 20 short-term.
Gosh, that's a lot of units.
I think that's what it is. He's,
That's-
gonna design it as apartments, and then he was hoping to at least do something.
Do you have a figure in your head of how many nights available a night in Abingdon? Isn't it over 1,000, right? Like hotel slash?
I don't know, but I could bring that back
Yeah.
if we decide we wanna have. further
It's a really
conversation.
big number. I went to a tourism conference once in Abingdon several years ago, and it was over 1,000 a night that were available. That was before they did all the new stuff, so.
Another thing that's gonna increase tourism or people in town, I don't know, is the ball fields. You know,
Exactly.
I think there's 30 weekends and they're all booked already.
Right.
You mean for tournaments and things for out-of-towners?
Yeah.
But that Holiday Inn that they built at Food City is charging $279 to $350 a night, which I don't think most short-term rentals are charging.
Right, and to Peyton's comment, there is another hotel looking to build, if this ball field takes off, which it should, they recognize that.
In that
that-
Food City Shopping Center or somewhere else?
So that gives your rates.
All right, are we ready to move on
Yes.
to preservation plan?
Well, and I did put this in here, this training brochure. This was my suggestion, of times and making them sort of like brown bag lunch where you bring your lunch in. I will also send out the link. I know we have in our bylaws a requirement to have training. So this was, we basically went through and found links and dates, and I thought we could, if you all are on board,
That's
it
good.
wouldn't require you
Yeah.
to be there or even have a discussion. It's more just like I would set up the room and we would have the presentation play.
Okay.
That's
Are you
good.
gonna put this on the Wolf Festival or something?
Yeah, we'll do all that, if you all are on board with this concept.
Yes, I think
I
it's a
really
great
think the
idea.
sign ordinance one is really a good one.
Yeah, there's a really good presentation on that. And then the other thing here was, I know we had talked about doing a workshop for signage. Do we still wanna try to schedule that?
You mean a public workshop?
Yeah, like where we talk about the signs and sign ordinances and. It got
Well,
brought up at one meeting, but if it's
With all
not-
this going on with trying to, with the preservation plan and expansion, maybe we should wait on that?
I think we should wait on that and put
Okay.
it down there later when we start
Right,
doing these things.
right.
And then, so do we need to have a mid-month meeting to talk about the preservation plan and
think we
the
do.
event
Did
planning.
it seem like he was gonna ask for another meeting this month or not?
I think so.
He
He-
can
Get a
do it
feel
as soon
for-
as he can, probably.
So,
Well, maybe if we have another meeting, we can let him know if he needs to hit that one.
yeah.
So what are you all thinking? Today's the 5th. That would leave the 12th or the 19th if we want to do it on, again, on a Wednesday. Maybe the 19th?
Isn't that 2 weeks? Or is that next?
That's fine with me.
Wednesday, the 19th?
Just a quick thought for me while we're talking about signs and our guidelines and
Hang on just a second. Are we, can we, is the 15th going to be the date that we do?
15th or 19th?
The ninth.
The
I'm sorry,
19th is a
19th. Is that
Wednesday.
what we're gonna, is everybody agreeable to that?
Yeah,
Is that
15th,
okay?
yeah.
Okay.
At
So we'll plan
5:15.
on that at 5:15. All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sure he's gonna come back and ask for us to make signage size adjustments, because with theaters, restaurants, churches, hotels, the board can approve that. But it states here that it's granted according to historic precedents. So we need to be prepared about what our historic precedents are.
Well, his building was a precedent. Could I just say how awkward it was for me not to jump in?
I'm sorry.
But, I think it's okay for me to make some comments now. Well, going back to and I was part of it, when we approved that 4 square foot thing, I've always been uncomfortable with it. I think in some areas, I think it's ridiculously small.
Well,
And I think this is one of the places where we should make an exception. Also, I think if you're really sort of being a stickler for the wording, which we need to be, if he had a sign with those 3 food items on the sign and hung it on the awning would not be part of the sign. So that's really kind of splitting hairs, I think.
Yeah, so when I did this calculation of the 17 square feet, I just took the 7.5 by 28. I didn't take the whole
You
square
just did the
footage.
lettering.
Starting ours.
Yeah,
So he
I didn't,
could do that.
Yeah. Well, that's
If
a
you
good
see this-
point.
If you see this picture from
Starving artist.
1994, there is writing on the awning.
Mhm.
So,
But is there any other signage?
Yeah,
there was a sign, this
It's
sign
a
right
neon
here, it's a
sign, maybe.
neon sign, you can pass that down. But, so he is not wrong.
I meant to get that for you. Did you?
I
get it?
bought it, yeah.
You did find
Yeah.
it?
So yes, I wasn't, when I did the 17 square feet, I wasn't counting the awning. I just was counting.
No,
the
Okay.
I know, but
Yeah.
I think that was part of
But
the
I
point.
feel like we could
Conversation
look
was
at that
going.
picture and approve it based on the fact that if we are trying to make it look like, I don't know, I mean.
Well, basically, if we can look at it and let it
On the front part.
let it be comfortable within its surroundings and not be
Right.
a jarring look against all the surroundings. It is a different thing than something down on, the 100 block of Main Street business. I agree with what Peyton said just there too.
Is that awning the one we approved? Is he right about that?
The awning that I have in the previous one didn't show a bump out, like a
I don't
curved
remember.
bump out. It was just a straight
Right,
rectangle.
yeah.
I can bring that next time. I just, he did not present anything in the application, so there was nothing to pull from.
Well, his was sort of up on the thing, but if it had a skirt,
It doesn't have a skirt, it's kind of a hard, rigid, big bump around.
I know,
That's
but
what
I'm
it
saying
has.
if it did,
Mm-hmm.
I think the point is the lettering needs to be perpendicular to the ground, not on a slant. And if you did something like this, then he could have his lettering down
Right,
there.
right.
I mean, I don't wanna break his heart.
I would have no problem with that,
Yeah.
but that's not what
That's not what he
being
presented.
submitted,
Right.
not really at all, really, if you look at it,
No.
no.
I will go ahead and give him that picture. We'll give him that picture the next
Do
time.
you
he
have
comes
it? You
in.
have it?
We have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will say, here's what the original was.
Page 107,
Okay,
in
if you
number
can-
2, volume
okay.
2.
I will get that to him so he can see what the precedence was that existed. I mean, the 4 square feet does seem very small. I will say that you do have that flexibility.
Right.
Well, we've
And
done
you
it
said
for-
that about 4 times.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
So you
the-
were opening the door for us to do that.
The Martha
But he just
and
didn't give us any information, really.
Right, right.
Methodist Church and Greenway Trig, I mean, we've done it
Yes,
when there was good reason, when there are multiple tenants,
Yeah.
or, but I think in a case like this, it's just so not surrounded by the real historic fabric.
Right. No, I think we need to be flexible, I just,
Well, he needs to give us detail,
we
which he
need
doesn't.
details, we need to
He
see the full
doesn't.
I
signage,
don't
we
think we
need
need
the
to be
full
too
signs.
flexible, because then there's gonna be others down, I mean, I struggle with that, because
Well, where, though?
who knows?
I mean,
You know,
yeah, but where is there aren't many sort of comparable potential commercial properties on the periphery like that.
Mhm.
It's kind of just sitting there all alone, surrounded by parking lots.
Maybe this is another situation where I've talked about that, you know, maybe we need to update our guidelines again
I
to
think we
address
do.
this, you know.
What would you think a good size
I guess the
sign would
last
be?
time we did that.
Well,
I don't know, I mean.
I just think it needs to be arranged based on the use and the location, I think, not just
Well, I know that
one
we
size
did those
fits all.
guidelines in that 1998, right after that, that was one of the main things we did, but then you all updated them. I know that whatever we read at the beginning, I wrote a long time
Right.
ago.
and maybe it would be good to see if we get the district
Yeah.
expanded and then go through a rewrite of
Mhm.
that as the next
Mhm.
project?
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
All right, is there anything else we need to take care of?
I'll just be glad when he gets through, so he can have his
We'll
thing
never be
finished.
We'll go out to dinner.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Boyd, Mr. Owens,
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mrs. White, and
Aye.
Mr. Keith.
Aye, all right, thank you.
All right, everybody. Onward. It's the first time I've ever brought this, because I never have this big packet.
That was a great packet.
Are they gonna, did I read somewhere that they're gonna remove the interior stair?